Another little incident that I don't want to forget is when we went to find the first hotel we stopped at in Skagway. This here thing isn't going to be any good, this one.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Oh, we'll take bits and pieces of this for later. We'll use this for later, parts of it, rearrange it.
Was when we went in, well, Mother landed in Skagway with 25 cents in her pocket and 4 kids. Nobody knew where your next dime is coming from, and nobody really cared. So the captain says to me, lady, I'll go up with you to the steamboat office and we'll see if we can find Mr. Feero. So we went up to the steamboat office and he went in and he wanted to know if anybody there, which the steamboat office was just a tent. Well, no, anybody there knew where Mr. Feero was. And a man on the street yells in, he says, who do you mean, Sandy? Mother got mad. She says, is that what they call him up here? Well, he said, you know, we Tacoma people. He was Cy Tanner. It was later the marshal in Skagway. His son had gone to school with us when we lived on K Street in Tacoma. And he said, I know, Mr. Feero. I'll take the family up to my cabin, and I'll take the boy, leave them there, and I'll take the boy up to where he keeps his horses and see if he's in town or on the trail. So he took us up to his cabin. There was a little board shack. There was a bed in one corner, a stove in one corner, a little table in one corner, and a box on the other corner there to sit on. But we could sit on the bed. And he took Bill up to see if he could find Dad at home. Well, he was up there, and he didn't know that Mother was coming on that boat. Mother had written, I'll be on the city of Seattle, or the next boat following. He thought she meant this city of Seattle or the next city of Seattle. She didn't. She meant on the next boat. That's the one she got on. And he wasn't looking for us. He was down at the beach the night before when the boat pulled past Skagway and went into Dyea. We were in Dyea all night. And when they didn't land nobody there, he didn't think there was anybody for Skagway anyhow. So. But he came back down to the place and he took Mother, and first thing she said, you cut that teddy bear off, his own whiskers. So he said, we'll go over to the hotel and have dinner. So we went over to this here, it looked like a barn, just boards up and down and cleats on the cracks. And we went in there, there's a long table on one side of the room, there's a L on the other side, little lean-to thing. That was the kitchen. On the other side of this barn place was a long bench and nails on the wall. That was your clothes hangers. And a ladder leading to the raft. So she looked around and she didn't see nothing. We went up to see where the horses were and see what she wanted to stay up there or downtown where he had 2 lots. And she came back down. We started on a wagon, but the ruts were so bumpy and bad, we got off and walked. And we got back down to the hotel for dinner. She still looked around and she couldn't see no place to sleep. It was supposed to be a hotel. So she said to Dad, she said, I don't see any place to sleep. Oh, you will, he said. And so she kept looking around, and she said, I still don't find any place to sleep. Well, he said, you see that ladder over there? Now, Mother was born in the state of Maine, where everything was just proper. Ladies didn't show their ankles, and ladies were ladies, in other words. She said, I can't climb up there. All these men around here. Well, she found out she either climbed up there or she didn't sleep. So she got up. It wasn't so bad going up, you see, because the skirts would hang down. Got up in top, and the rooms were curtained across by just canvas curtains. And the beds were mattresses laid on the floor. If you could, you furnish your own bedding. There we go. Well, on the other side, Mother had never been around drunks in her life. On the other side of these canvas curtains, there's drunks all around. We kids had a ball. It was a lot of fun when Mother didn't sleep. So she gets up in the morning and she looks down this hole. And she said, I can't go down there. The men are down there. Well, when you stay up here, you don't get enough to eat. You got to get down there to get something to eat. So she eventually came downstairs, down the ladder. When she got down on the floor, she says, that's the last time I'll go up there. I'll live in a tent. So live in a tent we did. Picked the tent in what was later the middle of Main Street. And one corner was a stove, little cast iron stove with a drum oven in the top. One corner was a bed put up on high posts so they could have storage under the bed. Two other springs was put up on old kerosene boxes or anything you could find to put them up onto, or stand onto. And that we had one bed for Mother and Dad, one for the two girls, and one for the two boys, to give us 6 chance to sleep. Then there was no table. So Dad went out to get some lumber to be able to fix a table. And he couldn't find none. So the only thing he could find was a packing box, which he could rent, but he couldn't buy. Lumber was that scarce. So they drove posts in the ground and put the packing box upside down on the posts. That was our first table. Got the table and no chairs. So they went out in the woods and they cut off blocks of wood the height of the chairs should be. That was our chairs. That was the furnishing for our first home in Skagway. Then he got a man to, he gave the man the lot he had downtown to put a cabin on the lot he had up where they had the horses. They put got the cabin built, and they put in some little bitty windows and a little bitty door. Mother was short, and she couldn't even stand up straight and walk through the door. And she couldn't get half daylight enough. They just had 2 of these little peephole windows. And she says, I won't have those windows and I won't have that door. That door's got to be bigger. You can't get no more lumber. There ain't no more windows in town. I'll tie about a nail of rag over them. So they finally found more windows, and they found enough lumber to make another door. And they put legs on this first door. They put legs on it, and that was a table for our cabin. When they got the cabin done, they only could get lumber enough to see it to board over the top halfway. So they put the boys' beds up there, and it worked out all right until Frank fell off of the top story down into the wood box. And two bunks on the end of the cabin. When he fell off into the wood box, and they went out in the woods again and got some poles and made a railing across it. And one corner of the cabin was the sitting room, the sewing machine, and the organ was put down this corner. The other corner up here was the kitchen. It was a wood box and a stove. On the other side of the room was this door table, and two hooks up on the rafters where they strung an old-fashioned net hammock. That was our couch. We had a little bit of a rug put underneath of that. And the other corner was the two bunks. That was the size of our cabin and the way it was furnished. That was our furniture. You didn't have furniture in those days, you know. But everybody else was living the same way, and who cared? Everybody was happy. You know, if you didn't have cars, and if you didn't have this and didn't have it, everybody else didn't have it, you wouldn't mind. It was the same way up there. People would go out and dig holes in the riverbed or something. They were prospecting. Well, there was never no gold in Skagway, but they prospected anyhow. So we moved into that cabin the day before Thanksgiving in 1897. That was our home until Dad was on the trail. Dad packed in his outfit something I don't want to forget. Dad packed when he was packing his outfit, he packed Ezra Meeker's first consignment of freight over the White Pass Trail. And that was a consignment of chickens. And when they packed those animals, they packed the sides of a horse and put a crate of chickens on the top, see? And all them heads are sticking up through it. Well, and then Ezra Meeker went back, and when he was in Dawson with this outfit, he arranged for a cabin to be fixed with a raised floor so air would go all around. And he went back out and he brought in a load of potatoes. He took them, and Dad packed that outfit over. At that time he had one of his, I think it was his daughter and her child, and they lived in, you remember where Betty Summer lived when you was up there?
Yeah. Now we should be in business again to where we can, I got it working.
You got it working again?
Yeah.
Then they took these chickens into Dawson. This prospector came through years later, and he told me he came out of the mines in the summer of '98, and he saw this dilapidated-looking chicken in the crate on the outside of the store. And he says it was marked 75, and he thought he meant 75 cents. So he went in to buy the chicken. Then he found out the chicken meant the 75 was $75 per pound. He didn't buy the chicken. And what else did we miss now?
The part about where your dad had to go back and collect for the potatoes.
Well, he went out and got the potatoes. Well, Dad when he went to got the potatoes as far as Bennett, he forgot to pay for the potatoes, the freight on them. And he loaded them on a scow and went for Dawson. So Dad had to go and make the trip to Dawson. He went to Dawson, and he came back. He didn't get all the money he was supposed to get for the potatoes. But came back out on the last boat leaving Dawson. They got as far as LaBarge, and the boat froze in. So they came the rest of the way with a Peterborough canoe. He and two other men came up the river. They got into into Lake Bennett and came home. And he said he had to make one more trip over to Bennett before he would take little Nellie, his lead horse from the winter before, out and pasture her for life. And then he would have his hernia operated on and come back to Skagway. And in the spring, we would all go on into Dawson. It was such a beautiful trip. But this last trip was in the late November, and he was coming back to Skagway. They tried to get him to keep off of the summit that night because it was a storm on the summit. But he said, my wife and family is on the other side, and I'm going home. He got into the storm, and he got sick. They stayed all night, he and a Mr. Amory, and they walked back and forth in about a 10-foot trail, back and forth to keep it open so they wouldn't freeze to death. In the morning, they could see it cleared, and they could see the smoke from the hospital tent of the railroad. And the man said, John, don't stop. I'll go for help. And he left Dad, and he went for help. But he was so far gone himself that he made a zigzag trail. He didn't go straight. Well, they didn't dare follow straight through on the trail. They had to follow his footsteps to find the man that he said was back there. When they got there, Dad had just passed away. He was still warm. But he lost Dad. It was on the 7th day of December of 1898 when Dad passed away and left Mother with 4 children. Of course, then he was a man that didn't take a lot of receipts. I trust you. I paid you and you paid me. We don't need receipts. Paper's worth nothing. But when he was gone, his knowledge was gone too. And they just robbed Mother of everything that there was. They robbed her of her horses and everything, and would have taken the cabin if they could have, that we were living in. So she just had to stay there and raise her family there. We got married and we raised our family there. So Skagway to me means more than it does to a lot of people. Yeah. It's a start of a wonderful experience and the end of a happy home.